Hello and welcome to Experiment Lab, the daily show with JK. I'm JK, and we are doing it again for the one more time. And Walter has joined back. Hi, Walter. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hope everyone's doing all right, and you as well.
All right. So, are you mad or you got pissed off? What is your reaction? I can't get anything like from your facial expression.
Oh,
You're going to run away, right? I'm not going to come back.
I mean, nothing's really surprising at this point. I've covered a lot of different issues and covered a lot of different things, and I mean, when it comes to certain individuals and certain corporations doing things easily and for the cheap, I mean, that's not shocking. I mean, there was just a report that a company called Sheen that manufactured, I believe they manufacture high-end lingerie, are paying like workers in China like 3 pence a month or something, which is uh, ridiculously low. So I mean, it's none of that kind of stuff when it comes to labor violations is shocking if companies can are allowed to get away with it. So I mean, I'm more am the type of person to see how can we try to fix something rather than being angry, because I guess the philosophy side coming out, react out of emotion. A lot of times you can make mistakes and just react, just be a passionate rather than solve the issue. So I think we're on the right track of trying to solve the issue and cover what we can to make a big change, because everyone can get angry, but everyone try to solve the issue and inform people of like this is wrong and how can we go about making an actionable plan that can keep others from going through injustice and help give restitution to those who went through it.
Well, my question to you, like, where can we start then? I mean, to focus on the solutions. So we already have some evidence, right, to show to the public as to expose these corporates' crimes and also how they don't care about all these things. So we can just show that right now we are on another call, right? So we can share the screen and show that like what's happening over there, but that doesn't prove anything, right? So only thing is like reporting to the agencies, and if they don't take action, so where do we, like the highest authority is like the political system, and today being the election day, so what is your take on it, right? So do we put the blame on everything on the politicians, or where do we stand?
Well, I wouldn't put the all blame on the politicians. I mean, it ends with them construction laws and changing the way the H-1B is worded in the phrasing within it. But I think to get a plan and to enact change, it starts from it starts from getting pretty much a community of people who want to see change in places where it would influence other people's, like unions. I think getting labor unions involved and trying to see, hey, this is happening. I know they're not union members, but they could be if you were to help and use your influence around the country to talk about these issues and get these in front of the politicians that you know, because there is one thing unions are good at. It's good. They're very good at showing politicians that they have power in numbers. So I mean, unions. That's the one thing I didn't want to bring up today, is that they could be a powerful ally in something like this. Not a huge fan of the word ally, but in this sense, it would be that, because they would be a good force that would be able to show like this is blatant labor violations, and we need to do something to fix this and probably get these individual unions that could be a way forward, as well as because there's also small organizations around the country that I'm sure that we could unearth that would, whether they're immigration, labor, organization that they would be interested in talking about this and uncovering this and getting attention focused on these issues. And then part of the marketing aspect of anything you want to do, it is also some things I've done in my professional life is working on marketing, branding, getting a message out there. And that's leveraging social media in a way where you can get as many impressions as possible and building a brand as big as possible to be built big enough where it's very difficult to ignore you, especially if information is coming out. We're showing that this is factual, this is happening, these are real life examples, we have these stories, these people coming forward and talking about it, and then that's going to get the attention of journalists who are going to want to uncover something before their competition or their colleagues do. And then that's going to get attention of people, then that's going to grab attention of politicians, because there's politicians that in Congress are working on labor. So I mean, it might seem very difficult and very daunting, but there are definitely avenues out there where I believe that's how you can get a message out there by being as big as possible and getting as loud as a microphone and help in teaming with others who also have loud microphones that want to see the same thing done as you do. So I think that there's definitely a path forward to at least getting it out there as much as possible. The most difficult part will always be the passing of legislation because that's going to involve both at the federal level, it's going to involve both chambers of Congress, and that can be a teeth pulling incident at all times to get those type of things changed. So, but there's definitely a path forward.
Yeah, you seems to look things in a positive way, but I'm kind of an opposite. I'm always like a negative person and joke about. So what exactly the solution for the victims? Do you think that like we can provide a solution for a victim, right? Let's take case by case, right? Let me share a story and then like you tell me like what should be the solution for that.
Well, I mean, I think on a grand scale, I mean, the one thing I think that could be done for all the victims of class action lawsuit, because there's showing evidence of this kind of stuff that these companies are doing, that a class action lawsuit would be worth probably hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's the one way. I mean, they can't get their time back, they can't get the stress back from the incidents of having to work with no pay for 18 months. But I mean, I do think that's the big solution. And in cases like that, with that much evidence, these corporations typically try to settle outside of court so things don't get unearthed, so they can keep doing it. But I mean, in this case, I'd be like, just push it all the way through and force those things to come out to the public that they don't want out in the public, and make it heard, because that's the way it's going to get changed. Because if they can just kind of sweep it under the rug with a couple $100 million, it's just going to make that money back, especially if we're talking about gigantic corporations. So I think that's the way, it would be the best way forward for everyone, is a class action lawsuit and see it all the way to the end, because that could uncover enough things that keeps it from happening again, and would lead, like, you know, because getting bigger microphones and politicians hear about this, like, yeah, we've got to make a difference here and then make a change. If we say that we care about labor rights in this country, then they have to do something. Because if the information is that bad, then if they just don't act on it, then they look like hypocrites, and that could cost them their seat. That could cost them the congressional seat. It could cost them committees in Congress. That could cost them a lot of different influence. I mean, something like that. That's what I would think for them would be a class action lawsuit.
Again, I'm not an expert, and what exactly the class action suit like will help the victim, right? The individuals. I'm focused on the individuals, right? Now, on large scale, definitely I agree on we can bring this down and stop this, the complete visa program, or come up with an alternative. But does the class action lawsuit like anyway helps large number of people together, or is it like focused on who are joined in that class action. So, right, so how
Yeah, you would have people would have to join the class action lawsuit, but I don't think there's a limit of how many people could be in the class action lawsuit. It could be gigantic, and it doesn't have any court as far doesn't have any power as far as changing legislation. But if politicians see that, organizations see that, they're going to try to push that. Like, we need to keep this from ever happening again, especially if it gets enough attention in the media, on social media. Then that could lead to movements. I mean, it should honestly should be part of a kind of a double-headed dragon. Like working on a class action lawsuit, and then at the same time pushing everything that's happening in a class action lawsuit to politicians. They all have administrative assistants. They all have social media. They all have emails that can be pushed out to, and then at the same time using social media to let that this is happening, and this law that is worded this way. We need to change this law, because you don't want to just wipe the visa program away. You just want to change it so it's not abused. So I mean, I think it needs to be a part of a dual strategy of, we want this, that we're going to push this to make these companies pay, but at the same time we also don't want to leave the plank uncovered, and we want to go ahead and make sure that we're going through and making sure this is changed so they can't do it anymore and just cover up all the loopholes. So I mean, it pretty much is a dual prong approach to try and get compensation for those who were victimized by it, and at the same time try to make sure it doesn't happen again. I think that's kind of where a lot of organizations fail in certain things, because they look at it as a one-way approach and they don't spend enough time on the solutions. They kind of open up to so many different individuals that don't always have the best intentions. The intentions typically could be on getting them the biggest brand, getting them the most impressions, and then it kind of uncovers that they're just kind of grifters who are just wanting attention, and that's kind of where I can come into play and help with that. I was like, no, we need to focus on what the goal is, what the mission is, and how we best can help people who are victimized. Now, how can we help someone become rich because they just want to make news and stuff as an entertainment aspect rather than helping people. So I think I could definitely understand why you would be a little bit negative about it and thinking like, this is happening, we can't ever get it changed. But I mean, throughout the history of the United States, there's a lot of things changed, from slavery to the suffrage movement, to equal rights bills being passed. I mean, change is difficult. Change can be hard. Change can be bloody, but it can be done. And I do think this is something that can definitely be done.
Questions, anything?
Yes, I like that approach, right? I mean, when we talk about change is the only thing that is inevitable, right? So it constantly happens, and also we have to adapt to that, and we can bring in that change as well. But the question is like, where do we start? So do you have any questions for me, like what we are doing in terms of the experiment, or again, it's too early, right? You haven't met the entire team, and you didn't ask them the question like what they are doing and what kind of profiles we have set it up. And if you are interested, I can share that, and we can always go back again with the same format, like in which we were talking to the recruiters, so that you will also understand like what exactly the issue is and what is happening there.
I would think, I mean, there could be, a little bit of evidence coming from the recruiters. I don't think that's going to be where the big change is. I think the profiles, especially any kind of statement that's coming from again, and I guess that would be a good place, or any kind of statement coming from, whether it's on the record, on bound or on background, from individuals that had to go through the H-1B visa, and if they're providing proof that, no, I wasn't paid for this is what happened, I can show you this. I think, how many of those people do you have willing to come forward and talk in like a print or video format, or is it a big number right now, or is it a small number? Because I think those are going to be the big incidents that can push everything forward. As many of those people who can come forward and talk about that situation, how it specifically affected them and how they weren't paid. I think that's going to be the biggest aspect of the entire thing going forward.
I do agree. And what will be the numbers that we need, right? How many people we need, right? We have a handful of people, right? So I can count it and I can say that right away. Probably is 5 people enough, or is it needs to be 10? What is that number has to do with it?
My approach would be, I mean, as many people as possible, especially as many other people are willing to speak individually about a situation, because if you can, because the way a lot of things work is like if you can make it an individual case by case basis and show the human aspects of how they were affected, I think that's something that will resonate with people, whether it's an article format, whether it's video format, or anything. And then if you in an individual profile interviews, whether it's print, or video, or just audio of all those people, and then that's compiled with a large number, like say 50, the eventual number is 50, you get all these middle cases, and there's articles with all 50, there's interviews with all 50, and all of that, and then there's even other articles combining everything together of what the similarities are, and with just loads of evidence and an investigative technical report. I think putting those things together, it's going to be very difficult to ignore that. And then there's going to be individual unique things in each one of those cases and interviews on each people that are going to stand out that could resonate with someone else, an organization, that they're going to want to spread it and talk about it. And especially, it's going to be loaded with evidence. So detractors can't say this is all fake, it's all fake. No, it's like this proof, this proof, this is proof that the visa, all this stuff listed out right there. So I think that's the kind of thing that will cause a lot of attention and will kind of get the groundswell going, because that's the kind of things you're going to get put in front of labor or union organization, labor or unions, labor organizations, politicians, be like, this is happening, this is why it's happening, we need to change the wording of this visa to get a new one out there, and that doesn't allow this to happen. And then that's kind of where I think things can happen. Will individual politicians run on changing a visa? Probably not. But is there a way that you can talk to them about getting this changed during a session, during when Congress is in session? I do think that is possible. So, because that would be my strategy, to get as many people that are willing to come forward to talk, whether it's written, audio, video, and get all those unique cases, and then get all the evidence possible, and can compile as many investigative pieces as possible. Going back to that, and reaching out to companies that they work for, reaching out to the people they spoke to, and saying they're probably all going to no comment, not respond, but not responding in a no comment looks very well in an investigative piece that you're trying to uncover something, because they don't even want to talk about it for legal reasons. So, I mean, that would be good enough. And if someone actually does come out and give a comment, it's probably going to be something like, we have a mission statement that's supposed to, that we support all labor aspects, no matter where they originate from, and we respect them all and compensate them fairly. But it's probably going to be from their PR people, when it's going to be loads of crap if you have evidence showing otherwise. So that's typically how companies work when they are. I was about to, I can't really use that reference in the United States because I have too much gun violence, but when they are getting pressured about certain aspects of how they run their organization. So I do think that's going to be the best way, is to just getting people to talk as much as they want, and getting as much evidence as possible, and combine as investigative pieces and written format. And the investigative pieces can also be in written format. They can be in video format. People do like videos with things showing on the screen and stuff like that. And so, like me talking about what's going on, that can go viral very quickly. As some people are they find it easier to consume video than written format. So I mean, doing all these different things and reaching as many people as possible, and spotlighting all of this and using social media to get more impressions. That is a way that can cause it can allow an organization to get millions of views and get a lot of attention for important topics that other people just or other groups, other aren't covering. We handled there a little bit, but I mean, but yeah, that's all that I think that's a lot of things that could be done to get as much change as possible.
That's something I'm still not convinced like how we are going to do it, but that's the reason like I wanted someone like you to join us and also bring in that positive energy and say like, okay, we can do it. This is the direction we have to go with. But as of now, right, what we are doing is like to kind of in the daily show exposing it like and even pitching it to the audience, like those who are in that, because in the outright in the public domain there is so much of videos and we have even captured those documentaries or interviews, individuals screaming and posting their videos there, and it's all like being taken down. But at some point, right, we do have some collective effort like to gather all those data and everything is out there. But still, how do we attack this problem? So to whom to blame, right? So my question is like, even if we are putting it forward as a case to report, and who will take that initiative from the government agency side, right? Because this is without the government help, we cannot solve this problem. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think like without the help of the prosecuting agencies, like we'll be able to stop this?
I mean, technically, if legislation was passed, you really wouldn't need their help. You kind of I don't think they're that relevant. They're probably going to stay quiet during the whole situation. To be honest with you, I mean, and that's kind of fine. I mean, because you can pass the legislation and those bureaucracy groups aren't going to have anything to really do with that in Congress, because that's something I think that's where it's going to end up. It could happen to be a vote in Congress of getting the change done, and in Congress it's situated in a way of where you can get it passed. Because I mean, I don't really think it's I don't think it's that important who is to blame, because I mean, there's going to be a lot of different blames to go around. But I think the biggest goal is to how to get it changed and stay on that path, as we go searching. Like I mean, technically, I guess you could go back to when the wording for the visa was originally passed and originally put forward and blame those people. But I mean, I don't think that's really going to solve the issue. I mean, in a class action lawsuit, that would be assigning blame to whichever organization or company are listed in that class action lawsuit. That would be kind of up to a lawyer based on the evidence that's gathered that these companies abused the most and they did all this, and have them all listed as defendants in a class action lawsuit. I mean, that's kind of where the assign the blame would go to, because like, you guys took advantage of this, you guys used it, and then the lawyers would come and say, based off of this law, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you call this kind of damage, to prove this damage was done, and issues like that. So I think that's kind of where the assigning the blame is, as far as getting the legislation passed. I think it's more important to get as many people on the side of passing it and not really going in that regard of who is to blame. If there are people in Congress saying that we shouldn't change law and stuff like that, that's when you start looking at their record and how it affects their constituents, and then saying and running ad. I mean, if there's enough money there, you can run ads in their constituency and saying like, this is what they're doing to not help. I mean, that's the way to get politicians to, quite frankly, shut up or change their tone. Is like, I want to come for your seat. We're coming for your seat. This person's for us. You're against us. We're taking your seat. We're going to get this passed. You can either support it, or again, you can either support it or you can lose your seat. I mean, that's kind of where you can do that influence, especially on a congressional level, where the U.S. Congress, where if it's not a gerrymandered district, you can go after that, or even if it's a primary, you get a primary opponent. where maybe it is a gerrymander, but the primary vote is for getting this change, and then helping that primary vote, because I mean that's the best way to get politicians on your side is to threaten their career in politics. It's a very nice career to basically work like 100 days a year, and then even then not even really do that much. So it's so I do think it comes to as far as the getting things passed, it's not more about the blame, it's about getting people who are going to vote for it, support it, get the message out there, kind of pound pavement for it, and like saying we need to get this change, vote for this politician doing that. Or if there's any enemies come up and if it's starting to be talked about a vote, then going after people who say that we shouldn't do this, especially if it gets a hearing in committee about that, and before it even comes to a vote. Then if there's people in that committee who are saying, no, we don't want that, then that's when it's like, these are the people that we can focus on during their next election, and we should go after them and show them that this is serious. And then if they lose their seat, you get someone in power in that seat that is on their side, then that's an extra vote for getting it passed. I mean, it could be a long process, could be a short process. Again, it depends on the shaping of Congress. But I mean, that is the way forward to getting a change done. And I do think there's enough immigration groups inside of the United States of America where they would be supportive of doing something to help that. And then they have the kind of the money, and they would probably donate, and then we can do all these different things with donations to be like, we can make this change happen, and this is how we're going to go about doing that.
Yeah, Walter, help me out, right? So my understanding is, so we should reach out to those groups and also seek partnership and help from different groups, right? So this is like, the more connections we have, the more power we can to attack these problems. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because then they can come to them retweeting things and sharing things from the big group on their social medias, or using their platform to bring someone from the group to talk about it on to their followers and supporters and members. So I mean, like they can get like unions, immigration organizations, other organizations that care about, because this is a civil rights issue. You're just not paying people to work. I mean, that's a civil rights and human rights issue. Those civil rights groups, human rights groups, as many groups as possible. I mean, as the ACLU should really want to talk about that. So I mean, getting as many of those organizations as possible to know the message, to know that this is a real group that's trying to do real things, and that everything is on the up and up and legal. Then I think that's where you get all these different friends who are going to help push a message, and that's kind of where it starts, because if they start showing support, then their followers will start showing support, and then millions of people could be hearing this message and following social media for Stop Now and watching all Stop Now videos, and being like, this is how we can get change, this is how we're going to do it. And then with that kind of power, especially as if it's our on Stop Now channels, that's where you then get what I call the microphone, and then whatever is said, people are going to hear it and got to address it, because you can't ignore 1.2 million followers no matter how much you want to on various social media platforms. You're going to have to eventually address that, but even if you rather not, because then they'll obviously, well, you're ignoring this, and then it's going to become an even bigger headache if you just keep ignoring it. So I think that is where getting as many supporters and friends that want to help get that message out there for a variety of different things that Stop Now is talking about. I think that's how to get that change, and also avoid working with groups that have ulterior motives that want to try and push things that aren't accurate or whatnot, because that does become an issue as well. But so I mean, yeah, I do think that is the path forward.
Yeah, absolutely right. Again, taking into consideration the time, right? I don't want to overdo it and go longer. Probably we will try to continue this conversation tomorrow. And I just want to share one video and listen to it, and we will talk about it in the next episode.
Okay.
employers, he has shared a file. I thought of playing that file out and ask the question afterwards.
But see, my point was to pay the whole 561 and find your equity. That's the only thing that I had when I called you, when you said that you will be paying $1,000. From my notes, I see you're supposed to, I don't know if what we have collected from this so far.
Yeah, the
So
thing
you
is,
tell me, right? It is not that I am telling you something that is new. This is something that you knew, something that you knew. A work authorization that are not always that are not. It doesn't work that way.
I'm just saying, I know that like business doesn't work in that way. Like I do agree on that. You just have to give me some basic things. Things have changed so much, right? I'm not making here a bargain, right? I am just trying to survive. I think the logic, right? Otherwise, like I don't have even.
Exactly, right? Money. This is something it's not about a sunlight. We need to find it to be, isn't it?
Exactly.
Even at that time, that was, this is something that you have to pay. Because I don't want this kind of an added surprise for me. I already have enough and more on my plate with human beings and their RFP users. Right? I don't want to have this conversation for me. It's a pure waste of time. Because this is something that is just you have issues, you have things. Should I be bothered? Not really. Because your H1B is 5 and it's a big picture. And now we are working on me and I, I don't have a say, no money for you. Our money has already been taken. So that leaves me. So if I start telling my issues, right, then will that work? It doesn't work. So you just tell me now when are you going to pay me? That's all I want to know. I don't want to know, there is issues, you're not here, I have to talk to you. I don't want to know. You tell me when will you give me that? That's what I want.
But that's like, I have no money. How do I survive with my family? That is the problem. It's not that I have money and I just want to get an H1B and get away with it. Right? I have to survive. On that habit, I'm just requesting and help. So please don't misunderstand me. And what do you want me to do then?
She's telling you when you can pay and how you can pay. I mean, I'm a little confused because first we already decided that you're going to pay in installments and then we get money, the pay rate is going to be increased, will it help or not? But now you're saying that you don't have the money, so what is it? This is a little bit. If we are waiting till August 14th, it means we are ready to give you chances. We have been giving chances and we are still waiting and I'm still working with you on your terms to see how we can come up with a plan. Nobody here even had a conversation or a talk where we told you, okay, what to tell you now some delay or leave. We never do said that, but that's apart from the point, you went all around with the circle, but let me just tell you, send an email with your rate confirmation. I will check it and come up with a calculation as to how that extra $2 is going to help us recover that 5,325 that we spent. And we're going to spend again some money if we won't take from you for RFP. We will come up with a number. If that number is going to take forever, then I'll come back to you and say, hey, this month I'll recover from here, but this month you'll have to pay me again and it's alright. So send an email and we will take it forward.
Okay, yes, sure. Thank you.
Alright, thank you.
This was the recorded part. Or this is a lot to, again, just to cut short, to end our show. What this is an employer-employee conversation, right? We dubbed it and to protect the identity of the person. And this was a clear indication that an employer is asking the employee to pay him money for a sponsorship, which is illegal. And we reported this and we can talk about this story, right? To start with. That's all I had for today. Thank you all. Any comments, Walter, before we sign off today?
Well, there's definitely a lot to talk about tomorrow on that.
Yes, certainly. We already played this out to one of the human trafficking advocate, like an attorney. She runs a human trafficking legal center. well known, and she was also shocked, and she said like, send me the case details, let our team look into it and see like how we can help. That's more to talk for us like in the coming episodes. With that thought, let's sign off for today. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Walter. Bye for now.